Hello and welcome. Today we're going to unpack a prejudice that's so common, it's practically invisible. It's a bias that, if we're lucky enough to live a long life, is going to be directed at every single one of us. We are talking about ageism. And to really grasp just how big this is, we've got to start with one pretty sobering number.
And here it is. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in every 2 people on this planet holds ageist attitudes towards older adults. Let that sink in. That is literally half the world's population. A statistic that huge just forces you to ask the question, what exactly is ageism anyway?
So, to really get to the bottom of that number, we need a super clear definition. Because this isn't just about being rude to someone. Oh no. This is a deep-seated, systemic issue that actually has a history. You know, the term itself is really powerful. It was coined over 50 years ago by a psychiatrist named Robert Butler, and he deliberately framed it to be right up there with things like racism and sexism. He wanted to make it clear this wasn't some minor slight, but a massive systemic prejudice that operates across all of society. The modern definition actually expands on this, breaking it down into 3 key parts. First, it starts with stereotypes. That's how we think. That then leads to prejudice. That's how we feel. And ultimately, it results in discrimination. And that's how we act. The really key takeaway here is that the damage begins with just a thought, long before anybody ever does anything. So, how does all this actually play out in the real world? Well, research shows us that ageism isn't just one single thing. It actually has 3 distinct faces that can affect every single level of our lives. Okay, let's break this down. First, you've got institutional ageism. This is the stuff that's baked right into our systems. Think about company policies that sideline older workers, or medical research that just plain excludes older adults. Second is interpersonal. This happens in our day-to-day interactions, like using that patronizing, high-pitched voice that's sometimes called elder speak, or telling a joke based on someone's age. And then you have what might be the most damaging form of all, self-directed ageism. This is when we hear all those messages and we start to believe them about ourselves. It's when we start thinking, oh, I'm just too old for a new job or to learn that new skill. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. These 3 faces of ageism cause real, measurable harm in people's lives every single day. We're talking about things that affect everything from their health to their financial security. So just how common is it? Well, a major U.S. survey found that a staggering 93% of adults between 50 and 80 regularly experience everyday ageism. Think about that. For most people in that age group, it's not a rare event. It's a daily reality. And those daily experiences, they turn into real concrete barriers. In healthcare, for example, a treatable symptom might get dismissed as just part of getting old. In the workplace, perfectly qualified people get overlooked. And socially, it can lead to some really serious isolation and exclusion. The economic cost is just mind-blowing. In a single year, workplace ageism, through things like forced retirements and unemployment, cost the U.S. economy an estimated $850 billion in lost GDP. And the impact on our health system? It's just as bad. In the U.S., one study estimated that ageist practices in healthcare led to $63 billion in extra health costs in just 1 year. Beyond all the big economic numbers, though, there's a much deeper, more personal cost. So let's really focus in now on the direct and damaging link between experiencing ageism and a decline in our mental well-being. Research consistently shows that experiencing ageism is a huge risk factor for a whole bunch of mental health challenges. It's strongly linked to higher rates of depression and anxiety. It absolutely fuels social isolation, which in turn fuels loneliness. And it just chips away at a person's self-worth, making them feel like a burden to their family and to society. And this mental toll, it has a profound, honestly, a shocking physical consequence. One landmark study found that people with negative beliefs about their own aging lived on average 7.5 years less than those with positive views. I mean, just let that sink in. Your mindset about getting older can literally shorten your life. The impact on our cognitive health is just as dramatic. This is where we see the incredible protective power of our own mindset. That same research found that older adults with positive beliefs about aging had a nearly 50% lower risk of developing dementia, even if they had a genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's. But here's the crucial turning point in this whole story. Ageism is not some biological fact of life.
It's a social construct. It's something that is learned. And because it's learned, the research is crystal clear. It can be unlearned. It is absolutely modifiable.
So what does the evidence say about how we can actually fight back against it? Well, the solutions, just like the problem itself, exist on a few different levels.
It turns out the most effective approach is a multi-level one. So at the very top, the macro level, we need stronger laws and policies. In the middle, the meso or community level, things like education and intergenerational programs are proven to break down stereotypes. And all that connects right down to the micro level, where every single one of us has a role to play.
So let's really zero in on that micro level, because that's where we can start to take back our own story about aging and challenge that self-directed ageism that can be so damaging. The research points to some really concrete, actionable steps we can all take, especially for those of us who really feel the weight of these negative stereotypes and are struggling with the mental health consequences.
This is exactly where professional support can make a world of difference. Therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy are proven to be highly effective for adults dealing with this specific kind of stress. These methods help you identify, then challenge, and ultimately reframe those internalized ageist beliefs that cause so much harm. They help you build resilience and heal.
Of course, finding the right support is absolutely key. For instance, for our viewers in Pennsylvania, practices like Edward, Jenny & Associates specialize in exactly this area. They offer psychotherapy and assessments designed to help people navigate these specific challenges. The stress, the anxiety, the depression. The whole goal of this kind of support is to empower you, to help you challenge those internalized stories and build a much more positive vision for your own future.
Ultimately, whether it's seeking support for yourself or advocating for bigger changes, taking back our own narratives is a powerful piece of a much larger puzzle. And this leaves all of us with a really critical question. How will we together build a society that finally sees age not as a liability, but as the incredible asset it truly is? The conversation and the change, it really does start with each of us.